Hello everyone, it's Ashwin Rao. Today's video brings you my first comparison of a number of Indian shoemakers that are really setting a new standard in shoemaking coming from the Indian subcontinent. We're going to tour the brands Bridlen, Blackbird, and Oblum in this video. Each pair offers certain strengths and certain weaknesses. So I wanted to go through those in some details and ultimately come to some thoughts on where you should consider purchasing from should you have an interest in these styles or makeups. Bridlen Shoemaker has been around for several years now. This is a brand that largely makes their shoes via Goodyear welted methods. And so if you want a factory produced, machine stitched and assembled shoe, this is a model that will suit your needs. So in some ways, this is the most approachable model because Bridlen has a really user-friendly website, a wide range of styles, lasts, and generally some ready-to-wear availability so you can get your hand on these models faster than the other makers that we will talk about after Bridlen. This is their Wholecut model on the Dew last, or the Dux last, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, made from a tan, full grain leather. See that this has 5 eyelets. These are blind eyelets. You can see that it has a block heel right here. The shoe has a nicely beveled waist, and impressively, they do a fantastic job on their sole work. Bridlen is the one that when I received it, gave me the greatest surprise. I was expecting a lower end Goodyear welted shoe, but what I'm seeing here from their makeups are some very high quality components. You can see a genuine leather insole, you can see high quality leather, you can see really nice craftsmanship, and for many, the work that's done on the sole of a shoe is representative of the hard work put into the shoe. The work done to create a nice sole was not something I was expecting at all from Bridlen. And here we have a nice Triumph toe plate, a really elegant rounded last, as well as some additional details. And the heft of this shoe gives it a sense of higher quality. I think that there are thicker components and weightier components made to make this shoe than the other two shoes, which feel a little bit more airy. Another detail that struck me about the Bridlen model, just to finish up my talking on Bridlen, is the really high quality outsole stitching done and the high stitch density done. This is at a level of stitch density between 9 and 10 stitches per inch that I typically would be reserving for brands such as Graziano and Girling or Edward Green. And here you're seeing it on a much lower cost model. Their last, as you can see here, is maybe slightly more conservative than the other two lasts. It's a gentle, soft square last without much of a chisel on the toe. It's still a relatively shapely last, as you can see as I pan through the different angles of this shoe. This is a seamed Wholecut, meaning that it is made of one piece of leather with a seam in the back heel here, but done nicely, cleanly, and elegantly. It has full leather linings, and overall, just a really nicely executed Goodyear welted shoe that I think would compare favorably with models from, say, Carmina, or in the UK, Crockett & Jones, those types of level of shoes. This would, price-wise, favor quite comparably, as Bridlen shoes can be had for between $200 and $300, certainly along their main lines. The next brand that I wish to bring to attention is this brand, which is Blackbird. Blackbird Shoemaker has made waves over the past year or so, offering a seamless Wholecut, meaning that this entire piece of leather is lasted as one sole piece of leather without any seams. Really, really impressive work that's typically reserved for bespoke shoemaking. And here you see that level of craftsmanship employed in a made-to-order shoe. Now, they call this a ready-to-wear shoe, but it's really a made-to-order shoe because they're taking and making the order once you've placed that order. An offset heel notch with a slightly tapered waist here, and slight pitch angles to the heel. So there is a slight angle to this heel here that you can see here and here. It's subtle, but it's something worth noting that they've done. This is also a shoe that comes in at around $300 to $330. And so you're getting some really high quality craftsmanship, but there are a few compromises. That while this shoe was lasted impressively for a $300 shoe, not all is necessarily perfect. There are some looseness to the grains of the leather, and this is their Zonta leather, a Zonta box calf leather. You can see some of that looser grain here, so I imagine that this might be a cheaper cut of the Zonta leather, or maybe it's some of the strain placed on the leather from the lasting process, because that's a real challenge to do. A lower stitch density, closer to 5 or 6 stitches per inch on the outsole stitching. Now this is a shoe that is hand welted, hand lasted, and has hand stitched outsoles. Now I was so impressed by the skill and craftsmanship employed by Blackbird that I decided to take the plunge for a second seamless hole cut, which I've reviewed previously, using suede leathers, because I found that suede is more easily lasted. If you look closely, you can see some ridging right through here along the backside and inferior portions of the heel and the heel block. The suede model that I have has corrected that. This comes on a rounded last, but I really like it. This rounded last has a nice slight angle or edge almost, where you can see where the shine creates a three-dimensionality to the toe. It has a little bit more voluminous toe, and other than that, you can see some of the creasing that has developed over the course of some wear there. Certainly not egregious by any means. I think it's actually a testament that this shoe did not crease in a bad way, so it suggests that the leather was clipped reasonably well. Another brand to consider, particularly if you're interested in the entry point of hand welted, hand lasted, and hand stitched shoes. The last pair I wanted to bring to your attention, Oblum Shoemaker. Oblum chose to make this model with me using a crust leather with a hand burgundy oxblood patina, and I reached out to Taran Oblum to develop this model because I saw a really nice version of this hole cut using his beautiful Sukhoi last, which to me has the greatest character of any of the 3 lasts that I'm seeing here. You can see that it's a much more asymmetric last with a more prominent lateral edge and a more flattened medial edge. It also has a little bit more shape to the top of the toe box, separating the toe box from the vamp. You can see right there. It also has a very unique and beautiful chisel to that toe box, and so definitely has more shape here. This shoe has a slightly lower vamp and lower instep than the other models, so certainly for somebody with a lower volume foot, this is going to suit you quite well. The shoe also features a more aggressively pitched heel. You can see that dramatic angle to that pitch right there. That pitch is a 360-degree pitch. Here again, you see the seam along the back side of the shoe, making this a seamed hole cut. I'm really excited about Oblum. I've been seeing some models from them that suggest that they're growing rapidly, including using Norwegian chain stitches on aprons, developing this beautiful last. There are a few matters to consider. Oblum currently largely uses Argentinian leathers for their smooth calf leathers, but they do have leathers from Ilcia for their some of their grained leathers, so definitely have some options there. One thing I'm particularly impressed with Oblum is the work done on the soles. These are the most beautiful soles of any of the makers that I've made. Now, they could theoretically add more of a beveled edge to this waist here, and I think that's something that could be there to step up their game. I also think they could bring this heel a little bit more forward in terms of creating a little bit longer heel block. I do really like how they've brought in this waist, and I really like that it's essentially a blind waist. Here you can see they do an incredible job with outsole stitching here. So this is also a hand welted, hand stitched, hand lasted shoe, and you can see the quality of stitching done is rather impressive at the 9 to 10 stitch per inch stitch density. All in all, I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing from Oblum as well, and I think that they are truly innovating at a higher end level. Here we see the shoes in comparison in profile. You can see that these each have slightly different shapes to their toe boxes, with the Bridlen and Blackbird models featuring the greatest volume in the toe box, while the Oblum having a little bit more aggressive styling. You can see this feels more like, I don't know, a race car or something in terms of how it looks. I feel like Bridlen has probably come furthest in the features that they offer. The really impressive, clean, Goodyear welted stitching of the outsole, and a very classic last should appeal to a large portion of people. Blackbird, to me, while offering some of the most unique designs and skills in terms of their seamless design, probably has the furthest to come in terms of quality. I noticed when I was polishing the soles here that the paint that was used to polish the soles was coming off just with water. Here's the sole, which I didn't show earlier, which is a nice sole. You can see it has a closed channel sole, as do all of these models, but it has the least evolved of the soles. I thought that as a hand welted, hand lasted, and hand finished sole, that they could come further. I also think that the Blackbird branding could probably be minimized somewhat so that it's not so showy. Their seamless designs are what make them so unique and so impressive. And I'd like to see them come further along, taking the same skill and craftsmanship used to create a seamless hole cut and applying it to the entire principle of the shoe, including on the bottom work. And then there's finally Oblum, which I think I'm most excited about in many ways because they have a maker, Tarun Oblum, who is an amazing communicator. They have really great videos on their Instagram showing their processes. They're very earnest in terms of where they are in their current level of skill and production, and that they're building momentum by bringing in higher quality leathers, doing some really quality work. And while there's still some room to grow in terms of developing their overall aesthetic, they have some really nice starts to creating a very tasteful, elegant, high quality shoe. So far of these shoes, the Blackbird is the only model that I've currently worn, and it fits true to size. It has an insole that's a little spongy, and I'd like to see that, as well as Oblum, replace their insoles with more of a half insole like Bridlen's done, which just then transitions to a leather footbed. I will continue to explore these brands. I'm going to start to wear these models now that I've put out some comparison videos so you can see how the leather of the Bridlen as well as the Oblum wear over time, and look forward to giving you more input on these fantastic emerging Indian shoemakers. I hope you're all doing well. I'll talk to you soon, and I look forward to chatting in the near future.